We are very glad to welcome back to the program Jonathan Sains with Texas Values. Mr. Sains, you got this some stuff you spoke about on the program before, the Texas Religious Freedom Amendment, SJR 4 and HJR 110. And you've told everybody today both of these are just sitting in the State Affairs Committee on both sides of the Capitol, Senate and House, and have not received a vote. And it's getting down to the time where we've got to have this thing done. Now, Robert Duncan represents a lot of folks in our listening audience. He's chairman of State Affairs. They have some other members in the area who are on the State Affairs in the House. I know Representative John Frullo, who has signed on to your bill, sits on that committee. John Smithy and Amarillo sits on that committee. Tom Craddock in Midland sits on that committee. So there are several folks under Chairman Cook on the House State Affairs Committee people could contact. Tell us a little bit about this bill, why it's important, and what we need to do and what the timelines are we're facing.
Yeah, and Robert, thanks for having me on. A very important issue. I mean, religious freedom, I think, to all Texans is very important. We continue to see the ACLU and other groups attack our religious freedom rights. We see it happen in public schools. We see it happen in public buildings. We see churches being attacked. We see all kinds of evidence. We worked on a case in Houston where they were having a military funeral and people wanted to lay their military family members to rest and simply use their own religious words like God and Jesus. I mean, we're seeing just cases all over the
place. Yeah, that was in the VA. Wasn't that where the feds, right, the local office, the VA said you couldn't even use religious terms at the funeral, and of course that some pressure got put on that and it got reversed. But this is a nonstop thing, this constant beating back of what's supposed to be protected, people misusing this separation stuff that doesn't even appear in the Constitution. And if you read that letter from Jefferson, it doesn't mean what these people think it means. And they're abusing this to push religion out of the public square and out of our lives.
Yeah, and I mean, if they had it their way, they would hardly allow us to pray the way we want to in our own churches. And so here's the thing. We have protection in our state law for religious freedom issues, but obviously it's not sending the right message, or it's not sending a strong enough message, and it's not working. We have litigation in the Plano area that's been going on for 10 years simply for students having red and green plates and having religious candy that they were giving out and when they were giving out gifts like other students were. So the law needs more strength to it as far as having it in the Constitution. All we want to do is essentially take the same religious freedom protection we have at the state level and put it in the Constitution so courts have a stronger basis of law which to draw from. They can't ignore it if it's in the Constitution. And if the legislature starts to change a little bit in the future, it takes a two-thirds majority to lower our religious freedom protection. We got a great group of people in the House and the Senate. There's an opportunity to have lasting protection in our state constitution for religious freedom, and that's what SJR 4 and HJR 110 do. And you've got law professors, you've got legal practitioners, you've got people in the pro-life, pro-family community. There is wide support, Catholics, Baptists, all different people of faith. And so the problem is Robert Duncan is holding it up in Senate State Affairs. We only need.
Now, these are things that Robert Duncan. Now, hold on a minute. These are things that Duncan and others have voted for before because it's already a part of state law. And we adopted most of these laws since he was elected to the House and then to the Senate. So it's there. If all this does is make it stronger and better codifies it, what's the holdup? Priorities or what's going on?
This is when I talked to him about it, and he said that he wanted to see bipartisan support on this issue. But my response to him is we don't need bipartisan support to get out of committee. Let's see what happens once we get out of committee and see if some Democrats are interested. But, this shouldn't be an issue of Republican or Democrat. But if some Democrats don't want to support it, that should not hold back Republicans from being strong on this issue.
Well, it shows the need for it. Does it not show the need for it that the Democrats are opposed to it?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a very good point. But that's why you've got Republican leadership on the committee. That way, if you have Democrats that aren't in favor of it, you can still get things out of committee. And so that's the issue here. The other Republicans on that committee are supportive of this bill, And, you know, Robert Duncan doesn't even have to support it to get it out of committee. There's already enough votes, but he does have that power to keep it from coming up for a vote. And so Thursday is the next time that State Affairs meets on the Senate side, and that's our next opportunity for a vote.
So people need to call Robert Duncan's office. It's 512. Just call the Austin office. Everybody's down there right now. 512-463-0128. That's easy to remember. It's the 28th Senatorial District. So 512-463-0128. If you can't remember that, you can get it on the Capitol switchboard or go online and get in touch with Senator Duncan's office and tell him to support the Religious Liberty Amendment. It's SJR. That stands for Senate Joint Resolution 4. And let me we only have just a moment of time, Jonathan, but let me repeat what I was saying. You were saying the reason we need to do this is to further codify the law that we already have to make it harder when the pendulum swings for the enemies of religious freedom and religion in our lives to reverse course. And the very fact that some Democrats don't want this to be codified demonstrates the importance of doing so, because it shows that there's already a desire to roll these issues back. And folks, this is important stuff. Tell everybody how to find your website and find out more about this, Jonathan.
That's right. If you go to txvalues.org, we've got plenty of information on action steps, breaking down this issue, feedback from legal scholars and supporters to give you all the information you need to support it.